Good afternoon, everybody. It's your girl Cha Cha reporting live from the Cosmic Club, and welcome to another episode of Off the Charts. This is actually a special limited series that I'm doing on the book The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. The book was written in 1910 and it really focuses on the specific science of getting rich. So far, we've gotten through chapters one and two, and today we will be working on chapter three. So, if you have not had a chance to check out any of the other off the charts episodes, make sure that you are in general subscribed to my YouTube. You can find a bunch of videos there, not just on mindset, but also on trading mindset to help you get better in the market. If you want to make sure that you never miss anything that I'm posting, make sure that you hit the notification bell to subscribe and get notifications for when I do go live. So I'm super excited to be doing this series. I just realized more so recent than not that you really have to change your mindset in order to get the results that you actually want out of life. And the cool thing about it is that there are books out there and there are teachers out there and there are people out there who have done these things before, would makes it easier for the new generation of people who are trying to build wealth and get rich. So if that is your goal, you're on this call because you want to continue to expand your mindset and build wealth, just go ahead and drop some W's in the chat. So far in this series, we have covered chapters one and two. Chapter one, from the science of getting rich, is all about the right to be rich. It's letting you know that you have the right to be rich. As Bob Proctor would say, you were born rich. There's nothing. Well, there is a certain way that you have to do things, but you don't have to be an extraordinary person in order to create wealth. Just for the simple fact that it exists, that means that it's available to you. Anything that you've seen about, heard about, was put in your awareness to let you know that this is something that you can have if it's something that you want to obtain. So I really, really love that. And chapter two is about the science of getting rich, letting you know that if you do things in a certain way, then you will get certain results. For example, if you're going to cook a certain meal, you have to cook the ingredients in a certain order to awaken certain flavors and inspire certain things to actually get the best result at the end. The same thing with getting dressed. You have to put your pants on one leg before the other leg, and that's the way you put your pants on. It's like you can't really question it. It's just a fact of life. And the same thing happens when we actually think about getting wealthy, right? You can have it. It's again open to everybody. So today's chapter is chapter three, right? There are 17 chapters altogether, and this chapter is called "Is Opportunity Monopolized?" Right? Is opportunity monopolized? So as we sit here and listen to this audio recording, which you can also find on Apple Music or Spotify or even YouTube, just put in "The Science of Getting Rich" and all the videos will pop up. I'm going to play it. It's about 6 minutes long. So make sure that you guys are really listening and intaking this information. And then, of course, as he's speaking, just so that you don't forget anything, you can take notes or drop in the chat what he's saying that's actually standing out or resonating with you. So I'm going to go ahead and play this clip. It is about 6 minutes. And then we're going to go into a discussion about what it means, like, for opportunity to be monopolized, and is that even a thing, or is it just another misconception about wealth? So here we go, guys. Without further ado, Mr. Wattles D. Wattles on the track.
Chapter 3 is Opportunity Monopolized. No man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized. But the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be but a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry, and in all its branches will give employment to hundreds of thousands and perhaps to millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for a chance in the steam railway world? It is quite true that if you are a workman in the employ of the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true that if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. You can buy a farm of from 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuffs. There is great opportunity at this time for men who will live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it is impossible for you to get the land, but I am going to prove to you that it is not impossible and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and the particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. At present, in America, it is setting toward agriculture and the allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory worker in his line. It is open before the businessman who supplies the farmer more than before the one who supplies the factory worker, and before the professional man who waits upon the farmer more than before the one who serves the working class. There is abundance opportunity for the man who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground by the trust in combinations of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. If the workers of America chose to do so, they could follow the example of their brothers in Belgium and other countries and establish great department stores and cooperative industries. They could elect men of their own class to office and pass laws favoring the development of such cooperative industries, and in a few years, they could take peaceable possession of their industry field. The working class may become the master class whenever they will begin to do things in a certain way. The law of wealth is the same for them as it is for all others. This they must learn, and they will remain where they are as long as they continue to do as they do. The individual worker, however, is not held down by the ignorance or the mental slothfulness of his class. He can follow the tide of opportunity to riches, and this book will tell him how. No one is kept in poverty by a shortness in the supply of riches. There is more than enough for all. A palace as large as the Capitol at Washington might be built for every family on earth from the building material in the United States alone, and under intensive cultivation, this country would produce wool, cotton, linen, and silk enough to clothe each person in the world, finer than Solomon was arrayed in all his glory, together with food enough to feed them all luxuriously. The visible supply is practically inexhaustible, and the invisible supply really is inexhaustible. Everything you see on earth is made from one original substance, out of which all things proceed. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all shapes assumed by one thing. There is no limit to the supply of formless stuff or original substance. The universe is made out of it, but it was not all used in making the universe. The spaces in, through, and between the forms of the visible universe are permeated and filled with the original substance, with the formless stuff, with the raw material of all things. 10,000 times as much has been made might still be made, and even then, we should not have exhausted the supply of universal raw material. No man, therefore, is poor because nature is poor, or because there is not enough to go around. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches. The supply will never run short. Original substance is alive with creative energy and is constantly producing more forms. When the supply of building material is exhausted, more will be produced. When the soil is exhausted so that foodstuffs and materials for clothing will no longer grow upon it, it will be renewed or more soil will be made. When all the gold and silver has been dug from the earth, if man is still in such a stage of social development that he needs gold and silver, more will be produced from the formless. The formless stuff responds to the needs of man. It will not let him be without any good thing. This is true of man collectively. The race as a whole is always abundantly rich. And if individuals are poor, it is because they do not follow the certain way of doing things which makes the individual man rich. The formless stuff is intelligent. It is stuff which thinks. It is alive and is always impelled toward more life. It is the natural and inherent impulse of life to seek to live more. It is in the nature of intelligence to enlarge itself, and of consciousness to seek to extend its boundaries and find fuller expression. The universe of forms has been made by formless living substance, throwing itself into form in order to express itself more fully. The universe is a great living presence, always moving inherently toward more life and fuller functioning. Nature is formed for the advancement of life. Its impelling motive is the increase of life. For this cause, everything which can possibly minister to life is bountifully provided. There can be no lack unless God is to contradict himself and nullify his own works. You are not kept poor by lack in the supply of riches. It is a fact, which I shall demonstrate a little farther on, that even the resources of the formless supply are at the command of the man or woman will act and think in a certain way.
All right. That was amazing, right? And this is actually one of my favorite chapters in the book because it just reminds me of how rare and special we all are. So, before I actually get into my thoughts and notes and interpretations of what he actually said, I just want to hear some of you guys' thoughts in the chat of what did you actually take away from this chapter. And L said they are the way they are because they're doing something their way. And that's correct. So I'll give you guys about 15 seconds or so just to drop some thoughts or ideas in the chat. If you were able to write fast enough or if you were able to type some notes out, just let me know your thoughts on opportunity and do you think it's monopolized, right? So Bridget said no business is oversaturated. Okay, that's something I'm really going to touch on a lot today as well because I really agree. Now, before I really dive deep into this, I want to ask you guys two questions, right? I feel like he talks about your mental state, your mind state. Yeah, this whole thing is about mindset, mind state, and being able to tap into the original infinite creative source, right? That's what this chapter is all about, and knowing that things are actually not limited whatsoever. So the two questions that I want to ask everybody, because we all live on this earth, we all live on this planet, and I don't know why we limit ourselves when there are so many things that have already shown to be that they're unlimited, undiscovered, uncharted territory. Like there's still, would you guys believe that there's still uncharted territory on planet Earth? Like you would think that every inch of the earth has already been explored and that everything that's to see has already been seen, everything's to build has already been built, everything to harvest has already been harvested. All of the species of insects have been found, right? All of the species of animals and fish have been found, but that's not completely true. Did you know that there are new things that they discover every single day? So the two questions that I want to ask you guys, you don't have to answer, but it's something I really want you to think about is how deep is the ocean? Right? How deep is the ocean? How much water, right? So it's a two-part question. How deep is the ocean and how much water is in the world, right? Because that's crazy. And then the second question is how high is the sky? Right? How high is the sky? And the interesting thing is that we only know what we know. And another popular thought leader said that the best, right? And this is a gem, like, so definitely write this down that the best is only the best known. And let me drop that in the chat for you guys, right? The best is only the best known. So that statement in itself just lets you know that you can be the best at whatever it is that you choose to do without stepping on anybody's toes, without limiting any resources, without exhausting any resources. Because if you feel like it's not enough, it's more than enough. And that's something that we have to tell ourselves every single day. So if you guys did have a chance to check out, I believe it was episode 5 of Off the Charts. I talked about words have power, right? Words have power, and what we say is actually what we create. So I did take the liberty to go ahead and look up what does monopoly actually mean? Like what does it mean for something to be monopolized and what is the true definition of opportunity as well? So opportunity is something that you can create for yourself because it's something that you want. And I just thought that that was just so direct that that was the definition that you will find if you Google it is something that you create from something that you want, right? Not something that is given to you, not something that is presented to you. It's something that's created from something that you want. And to have something be monopolized means that a small percentage of something controls the majority. Like somebody has or owns the majority of something. But how can anybody or anything have the majority of ownership and control over your life and what you want to do? Right? It's just not a thing or it shouldn't be. Now, how many times have we heard, right? How many times have we heard that um y'all really be losing my train of thought so fast, y'all. But how many times have we heard that if you want to create something, you can do it? Or just think about going to, this was a thought actually. If you think about going to the grocery store, and this is something we cover on the digital dash as well. If you go to the grocery store and you go to the cookie aisle, right, you're gonna see a bunch of different cookie brands, right? You're gonna see a bunch of different lunch meats. You're gonna see a bunch of different everything in a grocery store because it's a hub for things that are already made. But that's not to say that I can't come out with new cookies or I can't come out with something that could be sold as well because it's just as much opportunity for me to do it as anybody else. Now, the important thing to highlight about this specific piece of information is that something that he said that really stuck out to me and is one of my favorite lines from this chapter is that there is no limit to the supply of original substance, right? There is no limit to the supply of original substance. So this means that just because you think again something is low or limited, that doesn't make it true because there is no limit to the supply of original substance. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or you're somebody that's considering entrepreneurship, you should know that entrepreneurs, and this is also what we cover in the digital dash as well. Entrepreneurship, once you decide that that's something that you want to do, there's no such thing as lack, right? If there's no opportunities, you create one. You don't wait for things to happen because somebody waiting for something to happen is just, they just always may be waiting, right? You may always be waiting. So you have to really go out there and snatch what you want. Now, this original supply, like the supply of original substance is God, right? And because God is within each and every one of us and you are also original creation, that must mean that your ability to create opportunities and circumstances for yourself are actually limited if you're willing to do things a certain way, which is extremely important. Now, it's not saying that you have to do things the way that I do them, right? It's not saying that you have to do things the way that Spicy does them, but it's saying that you have to be willing to do things in a way that the wealthy have done before in order for you to get the results that you want. Now, something that he did try to highlight in this chapter is just that all industries have opportunity for growth and you can find a position in that, but some industries may be a little bit crowded, so it may be harder for you to actually shine the way you want to. But it doesn't mean that just because you can't take over that industry doesn't mean that you can't thrive in another industry or create something else for yourself. So in my, when he mentioned farming and factory workers because that was the present life of America back then. But if we think about now, industry, for example, just to put things into perspective, that may be overcrowded would be something like tech, right? Not saying tech gadgets, but when you think big tech, you think Google, right? You think Microsoft. So it will be very difficult for somebody to just be like, well, I'm going to be the new Microsoft, right? Not saying that it's impossible, but Microsoft has such a chokehold on the tech industry, right? And just on information technology that it will be hard for somebody to come in and just be like, well, I'm going to be the new this. Now, if they start today, in a couple years, right? I don't know how many years because Microsoft been around. Of course, they're going to continue to get better. Google's been around. It's going to continue to get better. And if somebody starts now, who's to say what their results are going to be in 100 years or so? Like we have to understand that everything that we put out is really going to come back to us in one way, shape, or form. And this is something that Bob Proctor also mentions as well. So I just want everybody to be mindful that you have to continuously work and continuously be willing to find out what it is that you want to do. What can you provide to the world, and just start to find the resources that are going to get you to that place. Also, just a reminder that just because you did something a long ago don't mean that you won't be compensated now or in the future, right? Just because your family members, right, your ancestors did stuff, that doesn't mean that you can't be compensated for it right now because the work was already done, right? The attention was already put out into the universe. So if you want something, you just have to be willing to tap in and understand that you have the chance, right, to the opportunity, right, to create opportunities for yourself, which is amazing. So I just want to state again that opportunity is not monopolized, meaning that one person doesn't have a control on the industry, any industry, 100%. But in order for you to really thrive, it's best for you to really pay attention to what's going on in society, pay attention to the needs of the people, right? And have this overlap with your passion so that you can figure it out. What can I produce that's actually going to give a lot of results, right? Now, this is just a small anecdote, but this week, I recently received a check in the mail that I wasn't expecting because it was just from a bank account that I actually had closed about 6 years ago. But just for the simple fact that I had that bank account, the letter pretty much said that when you, and it's just so funny how everything ties together, but the letter said that when you applied for our bank account back in 2015, you were eligible for a bonus that you didn't receive. So essentially, here's that compensation for that bonus. Now, I wasn't expecting to get that, but the simple fact that the work was already put in, the work was already done. And even though I wasn't expecting it and it didn't come when it was supposed to, at the moment that the thought or actual thing was actualized, that doesn't mean that I wasn't going to get that thing. Now, I wasn't expecting it, but I still got it. So we have to think about our own personal success as well. Like we have to know that just because you don't see the results of what you want right now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to come. But the first thing we have to do is decide like what it is that we want to do, right? Which industries are actually not overcrowded, which industries actually have a lot of room for growth and opportunity. Now, in this current day and age, it will be things like rideshare, right? Because when we think rideshare services, what do we think of, guys? We think of Uber, right? We think of Lyft. We even think of a more modern one, Toro, right? Where you can rent out your cars to other people. Like that industry, the rideshare industry is still so small that you have the chance to actually come in there and update it and to make it better if that's something that you wanted to do, right? You can create a rideshare service specifically for maybe 420 smokers, right? So if people they just know they want to have a lit ride, then you have the opportunity to create a rideshare service where people know they'll be able to enjoy themselves in this vehicle. They'll be able to smoke if they want to, and that'll just be really fun for them, right? Another industry that's still on the rise is just like health and wellness and other than food delivery service but home delivery services like Amazon, right? Like Shipped, right? Like these are things that are on the rise, and they are new companies, but they thought about it and they said, you know what is the state of the world right now, right? What is the state of the world right now? The state of the world is a lot of people are still working from home. A lot of people have decided to walk away from their jobs. A lot of people have decided to really just become more self-sufficient, right? So because we know that and we recognize that these new companies like Shipped, these new companies like anything that gives you direct home delivery service is definitely up and coming because that's something that people need. It's not crowded. So you have the opportunity to come in that business and thrive. Or maybe you want to start another home type of delivery service where let's just say you are into health and wellness, you can do subscription boxes for people who don't get to go out much, but they still want what it is that you have because it's a general need that's in the world. So if that makes sense, everybody, just go ahead and drop some sevens in the chat, right? And Spicy said, yes, I'm just getting compensated on something that was started in 2015. Exactly. Like if you put in the work, it's going to happen. Something I like to say a lot is that we're not going to get the results in the same season that we seek the results. That's just not how it works, and it doesn't make sense. I can't think in this moment right now. You know what would be nice? $1 billion, right? And then $1 billion is just going to magically appear in my bank account. It's not going to happen. But I can set the attention and I can start to actually take those steps in a direction to making $1 billion, knowing that, right? Back to chapter 2, if I'm doing things a certain way, then because I've set that intention, because I've decided that I wanted to take advantage of that unlimited supply of original substance, then I know for a fact that $1 billion is coming to me because I thought about it, I set my intentions toward it, and I started actually taking steps towards that goal. So you do have to be willing to do things a certain way. And you do have to be willing to take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you and not the ones that are not. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people tend to make is that they're too busy focused on what's not working out, right? What's not going right? The opportunities they don't have, the things that they are being excluded from, right? If you've ever felt this way, like you've been excluded from opportunities, right? You've been left in the dark. You may have been played out. You may have been forgotten. You was the underdog, right? Just go ahead and drop some sevens in the chat. Right? Have you ever felt like that was you? Right? Have you ever felt like you deserved the opportunity, but somebody didn't give it to you? Somebody didn't give you the opportunity that you wanted. Drop some sevens in the chat. Well, guess what? That opportunity wasn't for you. And those people that you were trying to fit in with, that crowd that you were trying to fit in with, that job that you were trying to get, those people that you were admiring, looking up to give you guidance, it wasn't the right place for you, right? It wasn't the right place for you because in their mind, right? And it'll never work because he also said in chapter 2, right? Like substance will attract like substance, right? Like substance will attract like substance. So you were just literally the right package at the wrong address, right? You were the right package at the wrong address, and they made you feel like, right, the opportunity was monopolized. They made you feel like only a few people could be successful. They made you feel like only a few people could be rich. They made you feel like everything was just so exclusive and that wasn't available to you because that's what they wanted you to think because they didn't want you to get in the way of what they were doing. But people like that will honestly not really get far in life because even thinking like that is limiting them and preventing them from getting more. But you, on the other hand, with a positive mindset, knowing that nothing is off limits, right? When you tap into that unlimited supply, nothing is off limits. when you believe in God, right? Nothing is off limits. When you actually create the opportunities that you want, life is going to be so much better. Because if opportunity is limitless and you can create the opportunities that you want and you can do things a certain way to actually achieve these things, what's really stopping you from getting it, right? If there's not an opportunity available to you, right, or you feel like there's not an opportunity available to you, create it, right? If you feel like somebody's not giving you a chance to speak on their platform, make your own platform, right? If you feel like somebody's not giving you the mentorship or the coaching that you want, you got to become that mentor or coach that you want to be. If you feel like you're not getting callbacks, people aren't taking you to places where you think you should be, take yourself to those places and make it known that this is where I'm supposed to be, right? Because another thing he said that was just so profound is that there is no fence around wealth, right? Like there is no fence around wealth. And if you want something, you can get it. Now, L mentioned something earlier, which was something that he said. I'm just trying to go back in the chat. He said, people are where they are because they're doing things a certain way, right? And you have to understand that if the people that you're looking up to, the people you're surrounding yourself with, your family members and friends, if they're all doing things a certain way and they're all getting the same results, and you go and ask them for advice, they're not going to be able to give you anything substantial because they're doing things a certain way, and that's not in alignment with what we have to do to get rich, right? It's just not in alignment. I also like the fact that he said in this chapter, um, if you think that all the soil is gone and dry, more soil will be made, right? Do you understand that all fruits and vegetables come from the earth? Like, I never heard anybody say bananas are running out. Like, I never heard anybody say no more potatoes ever, because if you want a potato, again, and this goes back to the reaping and sowing season, you're going to plant that seed, right? You're going to plant that seed, and then eventually a potato is going to grow, right? The potato is not going to sprout out of the ground instantly. And if it do, that's some freaky alien stuff, and that would be weird. But we know that if we plant the seed and we actually nurture that seed, we take care of it, we take care of the soil, that more potatoes will grow, right? Another, this is not from this book, but another great analogy, just what I heard in regards to making sure you plant those seeds, creating those opportunities for yourself, and nurturing them because they will grow was, um, I forgot where I was reading this at, but this guy said that he wanted to have an apple tree, right? He wanted to have an apple tree for his family. But the thing with apple trees is that you can't buy a fully mature apple tree. Like, it's really impossible. So the only way to actually get that tree would be to get a small tree and then to actually grow it up to be a mature tree. So he said that he bought the small tree and he grew the tree, and 5 years later he actually has an entire apple orchard. Now think about if he actually would have got what he wanted based on what he saw from himself for himself, right? He just was like, this is all I want, this is all that's available to me, like only focused on the outcome. I just want this full grown apple tree. He never would have had the ability to see everything else that could have grown, by actually growing something from the start, and just letting it do its own thing, right? So if you guys understand that analogy, just drop some threes in the chat, right? Drop some threes in the chat. Sometimes you have to start small, right? You may feel like what you want to do is not important, it's not relevant, it just doesn't make sense to anybody, but you really have to start small, right? Because that may be the only thing that's available to you, is to start small, right? Then you can grow it up and make it bigger, and it's going to be something bigger and better than you even imagined. So instead of getting that one full grown apple tree that you really had your eye on, you'll have a whole apple orchard full of things that you created for yourself. Now, another thing that I really like about this chapter in general is the fact that everything that we've done in life, or everything that we've experienced, it's been new to somebody before. And all these businesses that are booming, like Amazon is a really booming business. I'm gonna just use Uber as a really booming business, right? AT&T, T-Mobile, these businesses are really booming. When they set out to do this, it was just an idea, right? We have to remember that all these big billion-dollar companies, when they actually set out to have these massive goals, it was just a very small idea that turned into something major, that was not only able to help millions of people, but it also influenced other phone companies to get started as well, right? Now imagine if T-Mobile said, well, I'm not sure which one was first, out of the phone industries, it's just an example, but imagine if T-Mobile said, well, I'm not going to start a phone company because there's already AT&T. Or if Sprint said, well, I'm not going to start this company because there's already T-Mobile and there's already AT&T. Now, all of these things are in a similar industry, but they all have their own little flair or spin, which makes them original, right? They actually pulled the ideas, right? They pulled their brand colors, they pulled their concepts, their marketing, right? Because it's all completely different. All three of these cell phone companies, they sell a similar product, but the way that they approach it is completely different, right? Even think about insurance. They all sell similar products, but the way that they go about it is extremely different, right? They go about it extremely differently, and there's no monopoly in that market, right? Now I know everybody has seen the Liberty Mutual commercials, right? With Lee Moo E Moo. Like if you guys have seen those commercials, drop a three in the chat, right? Now, what if Liberty Mutual decided that they never wanted to have a funny mascot? Yes, Lebu, Emu, and Doug, right? That's so funny. Now, imagine if they said that they never wanted to create a funny mascot because Progressive already had Flow, right? Or imagine if Progressive never decided to create Flow because Geico already had the Gecko, right? It wasn't about the industry being crowded. It's about I see my opportunity to grow in this business. I see how I can take what's already been done and spin it for myself instead of saying, well, you know what? I'm actually not going to do that's why they're successful, right? That's why Liberty Mutual is even more successful because they've taken um cues and points from Flow, right? Flow, maybe the Gecko. I think the Gecko was first. The Gecko from Geico was like the first comic relief for insurance company because if they didn't have that comedic relief, then it would just be like another boring product that nobody wants to buy or care about. So when uh when Progressive saw how successful Geico was doing things a certain way, right? Selling the product, right? Taking advantage of opportunities, right? Making people laugh while also having insurance, they say, you know what, that works, right? That works. I'm not going to limit my opportunity and sit here wishing that I could have a funny mascot. They actually took cues from that and they created their own opportunities. Like if you're familiar with Flow from Progressive, drop a one in the chat, right? If you're familiar with the Geico Gecko, drop a two in the chat, right? Because these things would have never came to be if they did not pull these ideas out of original substance. If they believed that opportunity was monopolized, these things would never came about and it would have made any sense, right? So you just really have to be mindful of what it is that you're doing, right? Who's doing similar things and how can you use that as inspiration to create an entire right? To create an entire empire from that one thing, right? Now we talked about this in another call as well. How you have to be willing to go. We talked about mastery. Like you have to be willing to figure it out. Who am I, right? Like what do I have to offer? What can I do today, right? What can I pull out of essentially the ether? What can I pull out of thin air and really make it into something better, right? Without limiting yourself or thinking you can't do that because somebody else is doing it because that's not true. You may actually end up doing it better, right? You may actually end up doing it better because again, it's unlimited opportunity for you to create whatever you want. So I just want everybody to drop in the chat, but this is only if you truly believe it. Say, I'm going to do it better. Or if you want to be a little hood, say, I'm going to do it better. Right? I'm going to do it better simply because you can. Right? You can be inspired by a little idea and just create something completely different out of it because essentially every single thing starts from nothing, right? Another thing that he said in this chapter, right, is that everything starts from the formless substance, right? Everything essentially comes from nowhere. So whatever it is that you want to do, you have every right to be rich to do it as long as you're doing things in a certain way and you understand that opportunity is limitless because you're essentially creating whatever it is that you want from scratch, right? That's very important to understand. I feel like a lot of people tend to be intimidated by success. I feel like more people are scared of success than they're scared of failure, right? They're more scared of success than they're scared of failure because they don't think that that's something that they could achieve. Now, failure, right? We're all familiar with failure. We've all failed before, right? We've all failed before. And a lot of people get so used to failing, right? They get so used to doors being closed in their face. They get so used to being told no. They get so used to looking at the same things over and over again that they actually tend to believe that that's all there is. But again, I pose this question to you guys: how high is the sky? Right? How high is the sky? Right? And it's only as high as we can see, but that doesn't mean that there's all that's there, right? Because once you get out of the atmosphere, right, you actually want to go to something beyond. And if you guys didn't know that the universe is actually stretching and creating every second, so because you are formed from that same substance, what makes you think that your cells are not doing the same exact thing, right? something I learned from the Think and Grow Rich program with Bob Proctor, John Canary, and a lot of other really thought leaders of just every generation. Um, what did he say? Y'all, I really be just really forgetting so fast. But he said, Spicy probably know where I'm going with this. Like, I don't know, y'all, but essentially it's tying back into the same point that you can have it if, oh, I know what he said that when you have a thought or idea, it literally plants itself into, like, you're implanting that idea into one cell in your body. And because cells are continuously multiplying, once you essentially impregnate yourself with a specific thought or idea, it'll eventually permeate your entire body, and that's how you'll start to think and to act and to move. Now, I talk about this all the time as well, the mind, right? Because this is something I learned from. I'm always going to bring about Proctor. The mind it's a circle, right? Can I draw it? Let's see if I have something to draw it for y'all. Let's see, because this is important to understand, right? You have to be willing to put certain thoughts into your mind, right, to change your cells. Um, so this is a blank piece of paper. So essentially, this is everything, right? So then this is so funny. So this is how it looks, right? And this is your conscious mind. So we're just gonna write a C right there. And then this is, I'm trying to make it so is that it's the right way for y'all. And this is your subconscious mind. So what you put into your conscious mind matters, but your subconscious mind is really what controls everything. And these thoughts, right, that you have are actually going to be telling your body what to do. And that's actually how you get the results. So if you're telling yourself constantly, I can't, there's no opportunities, there's no opportunities, it's crowded, I'm scared, I'm scared, then that's going to sink into your subconscious mind, and that's going to be the results that you get, because your body is only going to do what your mind allows it to do, because this is how it works. Bob Proctor also always draws these things up here, right? Which are your senses, because everything that's coming into you is through your senses. So if you want to change, like, I'll just show you again. This is crazy looking, but if you want to change the things that your body are doing on a daily basis, if you want to change the results that you're getting, you have to first change what is actually in your awareness, right? So now, since we're going over these series and you guys have been plugging into Mindset Reset to get that personal healing, you guys have been plugging into the Money Mantra, the Digital Dash, your conscious mind is now shifting, right, to believe and think certain things. And once you do that enough, right, it's going to sink into your subconscious mind, and you're going to start to operate and think and move in a certain way, because now you've actually shifted the cells in your body to do so. Now, how do you experience these things that get into your consciousness is actually through your five senses, right? So I'm always going to say you have to change the things you're looking at, right? You have to change the things you're looking at. Go watch something else instead of watching Netflix shows that are sad, depressing, murder shows, who killed who and why, right? You have to stop watching stuff like that, because, not saying that you're going to do that, I hope not, and don't tell me, I don't want to be an accomplice, but that's not the type of programming that you want in your subconscious mind, because that's not the way you want your body to react, right? Sorry, y'all, my nose is still stuffy. You have to change what you're hearing, right? So I'm so grateful for everybody who's on this call, because you're hearing something that's going to stick with you. Like, every single thing that happens throughout your day, every single thing that happens is going to go into your subconscious mind regardless. So the fact that you're hearing this today, right, even if you don't completely comprehend and understand it, is going to affect like what your body is doing and the results that you have, right? You can change what you're eating, you can change your diet, because did you guys know that your intuition is in your gut, right? So if you're constantly eating processed foods, you're eating sugars, you're eating things that make you feel sluggish and weighing you down, that's also going to interfere with your intuition, because that's where um it comes from, right? You actually have three brains, right? You have one, the brain that we typically think about. Your heart is essentially a brain, because it has its own, like, nervous system and everything, and it operates not separately, but it does its own thing. And your stomach does the same exact thing that your heart does and that your mind does, and they all work together. So again, this is going back to your taste. Like, what are you eating? What are you putting into your subconscious mind, and how is that giving you the results that you want or do not want, right? Right? If this making sense, y'all understanding this terrible drawing, right? Just drop some fours in the chat, right? Let me know if y'all following, because this is some really deep and interesting stuff, right? It's really deep and it's really interesting, right? Right? You can change what you're smelling, right? If you don't like the way your room is smelling, you don't like the way your house is smelling, you don't like the scent of a certain thing, like get something else that's going to make you a little bit peaceful, right? If we ever heard of aromatherapy, right? Aromatherapy is essentially getting those calming things that you need simply by smelling something, right? And there are products that you can get that can help you with this, whether you want to spray your house with some lavender, right? The most popular thing that I've seen is candles, right? You can actually get a lavender candle and it genuinely will change your mood and make you feel more calm, right? You can get a rose candle and it genuinely will make you feel more sensual and more soft because that's what it's doing. It's aromatherapy, right? And then, of course, the last thing is touch. What do you feel, right? Like, what do you feel when you think certain things? Like, I used to think it was weird, but every time I thought about, like, literally every time I thought about eating fast food, I would automatically feel sick, like right then and there. And I'm like, why do I always get this feeling every time every time I'm hungry? Like at first I thought it was just like a weird thing, like, okay, maybe my stomach just hurting, so I'm not gonna eat right now. But it was every single time. And I noticed that that was just my stomach, right, telling me that that's not something I should be eating, but it was coming like your stomach, your heart, and your brain and your heart are connected, right? Your brain and your stomach are connected directly. So whatever you think is going to affect your stomach. Right now, if this has ever happened to you, because I know this happens to me a lot. If you ever thought about something, right, and you got a feeling in your stomach that this is not a good idea, drop some fives in the chat, right? Or if you ever thought about somebody that you really liked, and then you got those butterflies in your stomach, you could drop some fives in the chat too. Why do you think that is? Because your brain is directly connected to your stomach, right? So it's important to understand that if we're changing, right, and I say all this to say because it definitely is connected. If you understand what you're putting into your conscious mind, you're consciously on this call because you want this information, right? And it's going to sit in your subconscious simply for the fact that it was in your awareness today, right? And if you consistently listen to these things over and over again, right, it's going to change what's going into your subconscious mind. And that will eventually, I was talking to my friends about this earlier, like once your subconscious mind and your conscious mind start to merge, it's just a different level of awareness, right? And I just feel chills right now because it really is a different level of awareness, right? You'll start to notice that you're showing up as yourself in your dreams, right? You'll be able to accept things that you want in your dreams, but you'll also be able to reject and deny things that you don't vibe with in real life in your dreams because your subconscious has officially switched. And now it's like, oh, this is what she told us to do earlier, right? But it's not going to happen over one time and it's not going to happen overnight. So I really just want to sum this up by saying that I want you to change the way that you think about opportunity. Right? Don't think about opportunity because this was the way I thought about opportunity for a really long time. Like, don't think that opportunity is something that's given to you. It's not. It's something that's created. It's something that's created. Right? Opportunity is not something that's given to you. It's something that's created by you. And I really need you to understand that. So if you want something, you don't have to wait around for somebody to give you a chance to do it. You just go out there and do it, right? Because the same way that they got up, right, the same way that they decided that this is something that they wanted to do, the same way that they took those steps to get there is the same way that you can do it, right? Don't think that because somebody started before you that you're not worthy to be in that position or better. Because, like I said, and if only if you believe it, and you could drop it again in the chat, is I'm gonna do it better, right? And I'm gonna just drop it in the chat. I'm gonna do it better, right? Because I'm not looking to you to give me that opportunity, right? You may inspire me, which is amazing, but you are not the gatekeeper to my wealth. You are not the gatekeeper to my generational wealth. You are not the gatekeeper to my bloodline. You are not the gatekeeper to my millions. Like, you're just not. Nobody is. The only person who can decide that's between you and God, right? That's between you deciding to take advantage of the unlimited resources. It's just very interesting because if I told everybody on this call, right, and I am telling you guys right now that you have unlimited access to every resource in the world, right? Just because of your mind, right? Your mind is actually what connects you to this universal supply of everything. So when you can actually unlock and tap into that, you can have anything you want, right? Now you may not think that, oh, I don't know, I don't want to have diamonds and all these things because I don't know, I just no, feel bougie, right? Take advantage of all of it because diamonds also come from the earth, right? Diamonds also come from this unlimited substance. You think it's a limited supply of diamonds? Do you know how deep the earth's core is? Do you know that all precious diamonds and metals actually come directly from the earth and they have to be shined and polished and brought up to a certain status before they even sold? Do you know that there's people mining something somewhere right now that's going to create millions more diamonds? But because diamonds are produced from the earth, right? They're produced from the ground. They're produced from this limited substance. There will not be a limited supply. So if you want all the diamonds in the world, guess what? You can go for that, right? You're not taking from anybody else. If you want to be in the spotlight and you want to have 10,000 followers, you're not taking from anybody else, right? If you want to be a billionaire, right? Even if you want to be a trillionaire, you're not taking from anybody else because for one, money is printed. For two, everything's digital in the system. So somebody can literally go in a computer system right now and change your balance to $1 billion, and that's going to give you more access, right? But you have to first create that thought in your mind so that you can start to align yourself with the proper actions that's going to get you the things that you actually want, right? There's no limit on anything that you can achieve and do. And you can always be the first to do something. And you could break a world record every day. I was watching something the other day, and this lady, she actually just broke the world record to be like the first black female bodybuilder to deadlift 400 pounds. It was just crazy. But the simple fact was that we in 2022, and records are still being broken every day. Things are still being created every day. Businesses are still being launched every day. Like I can guarantee you right now, and I want you to remember this call. There's a product being created right now that you never heard of, but I promise you it's going to be at the forefront of your life because you need that. And the person that's creating it right now knows that you need it, but you don't know you need it. And it's going to be something that you never used before, but now you can't live without it. Right? There was a point in time where I never heard of Lyft or Uber or nothing like that at all, right? The first time I think I actually got into an Uber was on my 21st birthday, and I was not with it, right? And my friend Spicy, she's actually on the call right now. She literally called me and she was like, "It's gonna be a car outside. Go get in it." I was like, who's driving? What are you talking about? Go get in the car. Like I was so sketched out, but I just didn't think that obviously my friend would put me in a position of danger. So I got in the car. I showed up to my surprise party. It was amazing, but I wasn't with it. But now I just be like, oh, Uber this, Uber that, Uber Eats, Uber Bikes, like Uber Planes, Uber Delivery, like everything, like really like Uber everywhere, like for real, for real. Like it's really a thing, right? And because I became comfortable with the idea of Uber, I was able to be more accepting of Lyft. I was able to be more accepting of Toro because now this is not a foreign concept or idea. It's in my awareness and I understand it, right? And these things have just created so many opportunities for people, so many jobs. But before it was just a thought and it was not popularized, but now it's just like you know what that is. So yeah, that's I believe that's all I have to say on this topic for today because I can talk forever. Like I really be on the phone with my friends for hours, and every time we get off the phone I'm always like, we could have took a flight to Dubai. Like I'm always comparing it to some type of travel because it legit be that long. Like we just talk too much, y'all. We just talk a lot, right? Because it's the unlimited supply of things to talk about, you feel me? But that's all I have to say. If anybody would like to add any commentary or say anything, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and I will spotlight you so that you can share ideas with the group. Or if you don't feel comfortable coming up here to speak, you can of course leave your ideas in the chat and I will read them so that everybody knows what you have to say, right? This is a safe space. And yeah, so I see Spicy has raised her hand, so I'm going to bring her to the stage and allow her to talk. So go ahead, Spicy.
Of course, I completely enjoyed today's episode. I loved it. I definitely love this topic. And it's just interesting because it's true as an entrepreneur, like you must make your own opportunities because people will try to, like you said, monopolize things, make it seem like they're the only ones that can get successful. But okay, they can do that, but that still doesn't mean that you can't create something of your own. And just how things are and how our society is just conditioned as consumers, it's always a new thing, it's always a new phone, it's always a new video game, it's always a new service. So it's like that'll work, and it's also creative and it's different. So it's like that same thing can work for you, if you decide, which is amazing. And opportunity is not monopolized. Like you can create your own opportunities. And if you ever feel like what Cha Cha said earlier, that there isn't enough space for you, you have to rebuke that thought because, like she mentioned, there's different brands of cookies. There's not just one type of cookie. People like different things. People like different aesthetics. Especially if you decide to cater to people that actually want to live life, they're gonna want to appreciate the arts, the culture, the beauty, or whatever it is that comes with your product. So you just gotta keep doing you. But thank you so much for letting me share my opinion.
Of course, you are always welcome. Your voice is so valuable, and I'm just excited. So, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up Miss Pretty Puff Pips, who is a skincare consultant. She's also I call her a chemist, but she says she's a cannabis connoisseur. Same thing, right? And she's also a thought leader of our generation. She does an amazing job every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m., making sure that we are getting the therapy and help that we need to consistently develop, not just as entrepreneurs, but as individuals. Like where the money mantra focuses on your thoughts surrounding money, and a digital dash has a huge focus on entrepreneurship. Mindset reset is all about getting you together first because that's what matters, right? We say mindset is 90% and 10%. Mindset is 90% of everything, and your hard work is only 10%. So make sure that you are plugged into that call as well. So I just had to edify her real quick because she be snapping. So go ahead, Miss Pretty Puff Pips.
Hey, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts about your like the series for today, your call for today. I really like today, and I think for me when he was talking, what I got most of it, I love how he said that if there's no more gold, there will be gold more. If our soil's no good, that will get essentially more. And I think he's talking about how life is truly so abundant, and we just have to be a part of the abundancy and recognize that if we want more, you just have to plant that seed in your mind, and your mind is essentially the soil. So I really appreciated it because I feel like all these, the whole book is just essentially saying it's really up to you. So you have to make the choice to be wealthy. And if you make the choice, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get it. And that's really all that I want to share today. Again, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts.
No problem, Miss L. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak. I love coming to your classes, and if you guys have not had a chance to check that out, make sure you are in the Mindset Reset chat. It's a lot of amazing developments happening all throughout the Cosmic Club because we are all about progression, wealth, wellness, getting better, financial literacy, and things of that nature. So make sure you're tuned in. I really enjoyed this call. Again, if where there will not be any playback. So if you were here, you actually got to see me live today. In person, in the flesh, and I really hope you take these gems. Just a reminder before you guys hop off the call. We will be doing a digital dash tonight. We are back. We took a hiatus on Sunday, but we are back tonight at 8 o'clock p.m. And the topic is stuck, stagnant, do this. So we're gonna give you some tips and some really amazing gems to just help you if you're feeling stuck in your life right now. What can you do to actually move things forward? If you don't know, Wednesdays at the Cosmic Club, which is my organization, it is Wellness Wednesday. So we have a call at 8 a.m., Mindset Reset. Then we follow up at 2 p.m. with the Money Mantra. And then we close it out with a killer call right from the Digital Dash. So if you are not tuned into that, make sure you are in that chat, right? Or just plugged in. Because now the calls are going to be exclusively streamed on Gumroad. So if you have had a chance to check out our Gumroad as well, the link can be found in my bio, Spicy's bio, and L's bio as well. But this is our time, guys. That was an hour exactly. I'm so grateful that you guys decided to hop on this call today. I can't wait to see the results that you get just from changing your mindset. So always feel free to text me, tag me on Instagram, let me know what you thought about the call. And we're going to wrap it up here. So continue having an amazing day. And I will see everybody right at 8 o'clock p.m. So toodles.